That's better. That's better.
Okay.
All right, good.
And if I were to be a dictator in a nutshell, and
Wait! You just went from being a nerd to a dictator. Which are you?
Well, there are nerds who want to rule the world, aren't there?
Okay.
And I would want to infiltrate Google, because Google is very powerful. Where's democracy? Where are the checks and balances?
I hope the check and balance is first and foremost the citizens, the people. Now, saying that, one can sound too populist, and there's an issue there. There's also the need for institutions still, including journalism and academia and all these threatened institutions. I want them to live on. I want them to learn how to live better. But also, at the end of the day, someone goes into a polling booth and votes. As long as we have that ability, as long as that ability isn't stopped by the army of a nation, then we have the opportunity to still rule the country.
But journalism also is seen as a filter. A final check what's true, what isn't. Even in the Arab Spring, there were signs of infiltrating Facebook. Not everything that was written was true, factually true. So there were secret services and other people trying to influence masses.
Any system can be gamed.
Yes.
The geeks at Google will tell you that's why spam comes along. And Google has some brilliant people, starting with a guy named Matt Cutts, whose career is to bat down spammers constantly.
Yeah.
Any system that's created can be gamed.
So
yes.
How do we know whom to trust?
We have to make those judgments ourselves. It was lazy before to think that we could rely solely and only on a few media outlets to make those choices for us. We also have a responsibility as citizens to make decisions as well.
Yes.
And how do we do that? Well, we've also done it in ways that media couldn't hear before. We went to the bar and we talked with our friends and we compared notes and we imagined what works and what doesn't. We became our check on both media and government.
Are there any questions?
Or arguments, which is fine.
Are there any people who want to take off their ties? Questions? Come on, you are all journalists or people who... the young ones. There you have sound.
Hello.
Tell me who you are.
Hi, I'm Justin.
You study journalism?
Yes, I'm studying TV journalism. When the internet came along, everything was free, and everything started out to be free. And now we have to pay for everything. How long will it take for people, especially Dutchmen, who aren't really don't want to pay a lot? How long will it take for the people to get used to the fact that we have to pay for information?
What do you think about that trend? Is it going the right way or the wrong way?
He's Dutch. He wants everything for free.
Deep pockets, short hands. What I think that it's a good thing that we pay for information, because that gives it value. But I don't know who to trust with my money. Where do I send it to? Who? Wie beheert het?
The paywall issue and the paying for content is becoming, a very emotional issue, because it does speak to our value and our ego and our survival. And it says, and I hear people say, people should pay. But I also say that I've never seen a business model built on the verb should. That's an ethical question, right? Business models are built on real value. Now, let me go off for just 1 second here into a weird tangent. I'm struggling these days with a paradox about the value of content. On the one hand, content is information rich. That's clearly valuable to me. It helps me with my life. It helps me with my community. It helps me tell what I should do. That I understand, right? There's also content that is, and I don't say this negatively, is entertainment. Right? The New York Times did a piece, this is my best example, sorry, it's from back home. The New York Times did a piece a few months ago on an avalanche. And it made some popularity. It was a very long piece, videos in it, beautifully done. Well, the truth is that I am too tall already. I'm clumsy, as you saw a moment ago. I can't ski. I'm never going to be near an avalanche. There's no useful information in that story. So my reason to read it was, frankly, to be entertained. Now, it could also be illuminated and enlightened, and all kinds of good things could come. Here's the issue. Information is a commodity. As soon as you know information, it gets passed around, because it's just information. And we don't want to stop that. That would be ridiculous to say that you could own information. That would be wrong, right? So it's hard to charge for information, for the thing that is most valuable to your life. It's probably easier to charge for the entertainment, but the entertainment is entertainment. It's not as valuable to what we do, and it also has to compete with movies and novels and books and other things. So I don't know where the real economics of charging go here, and I find it very confusing. What we're going to see is a lot of papers try it. We're going to see some succeed. We're going to see some fail, and then we're going to look for the next salvation. I think paying is fine. Your next question is, how do you know whom to pay? How do you know whom to trust? You've got to make that decision yourself about where you think the value is.
Isn't it true that the New York Times, especially the New York Times, charges for content now? And it's a great success.
Yeah, yes, they have a paywall, and they have approximately 60 million, rounding up, unique users a month, and 600,000 pay, 1% pay.
Yes.
And that's enough to give them a good bit of revenue, because they charge a very high price. I pay more than $600 a year for the New York Times. Yes. But it is not enough to make up for the advertising they've lost. So it's not a salvation. Now, it's a new revenue stream. It's a good thing. That's fine.
But Google does it for free. And in your book, you state that we have to follow Google in everything.
Not in everything. There are exceptions.
Your title is, what would Google do? In any step you take in life, you should wonder, what would Google do?
Wonder, not necessarily follow, but wonder and say, what do they see that I don't see? What do they see that may be of value? So yes. Now Google says, let's look frankly at the Leistungsschutzrecht, the ancillary copyright fight in Germany.
Yes.
And I hear word that it's going to spread here and spread to the rest of the EU. God help us. Because the problem there is that Google's never going to pay for content. They can't. Right? What you have is publishers trying to get Google to share its revenue because Google's doing well and we're not. And it's not fair, you know? It's just not fair. That's what they're saying, right? Well, yeah, it is fair because Google's making all this money simply because Google offered advertisers a better deal. Google took on the risk that advertisers had by charging only on clicks. Yeah. Google managed an abundance across the net. Google was smarter about advertising than we in the advertising business were. That's called competition. And that's fine. Now, should we do what Google's doing? We can't do it exactly. But we can learn a lot from Google. We can learn how to have relationships. We can learn how to have better deals for advertisers. We can learn how to give advertisers better value. We can do lots of things better.
Why do you have to pay for your book then?
The publisher. Blame the publisher.
Well, that's a very easy answer. How much do you earn?
Not enough. I also wrote and I'll plug an ebook I wrote called Gutenberg the Geek, which is a mere 99 cents. Now, I put that on as an ebook, as a Kindle single to learn about that, and I made $10,000 last year from that. I shouldn't quit my day job, which is fine, right?
Yes.
But actually, I'd probably be better off putting it up for free. More people would see what I wrote. More people would do it. I'd probably get more trips to Amsterdam out of it. There are other ways for me as an individual journalist to recognize the value.
Isn't the problem with the crystal ball thing that, you know, when the future changes, everything has changed before it actually happens? Mm-hmm. You know, for instance, civil journalism, the big thing a couple of years ago in the United States. Well, now it's dead and buried already. I mean...
Or, no, it's actually come to life. Now we see people who are collaborating with each other to find out more information in society. I think the mistake of civic journalism was that it imagined that it came through the newsroom, not through the community.
They ask the community.
Oh, that's the crowdsourcing thing. That's just lazy. No, I'm talking about things like Andy Carvin and the Arab Spring, where you see a flow or pool of information that occurs without our gatekeeping. That's what's happening.
But the thing is, no one can predict the future.
No, and nor would I ever say that I can. All we should do, though, is try to find the opportunities and the risks in it and not just concentrate on the risks.
Google is your example. Apple, very successful company, does the opposite.
As I say, pardon my English once again, as I say, Apple violates absolutely every rule that I put in here. Here, what the heck, I might as well plug it. Every rule that I put in here. And why could it do that? Because it's that fucking good. Right?
So if you're good...
Or perhaps we should say it was that good.
Yeah.
We shall see.
After Steve Jobs passed away.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Good. Thank you, folks.
Maybe you can stand up and tell us who you are, please.
I'm Kees Spaan. I was in newspapers all my life and in public broadcasting. I have two questions. One is, can you elaborate on this book, The Cult of the Amateur, Andrew Keen, you certainly would have read. The second question is on the wallpapers. My problem with Google was always that they refused to negotiate and they refused to ask permission to reuse and recycle the information which is produced by somebody else. Third point, if the end user,
Thought you had two questions.
the reader,
I hope my aged memory holds up. You remind me.
I'm sure he will, if the end user doesn't pay for the costs which are made deep down, then the quality papers as New York Times, Review of Books, and so on, Financial Times, will end because the revenue is tapped in between by Google.
Okay, the answers, please.
Number one, Andrew Keen, yes, he tries to act meaner than he is. He's actually a nice guy. There are mean people out there who don't like me, but he's actually okay. He is an example of he cult of the amateur. What he fears this world taken over by you amateurs, who are those of you who are. He's decrying the end of professionalism. He's fearing the end of professionalism. He's fearing that institutions that gave us professional value, like newspapers, like broadcast, like universities, are being challenged by organizations, or non-organizations, by people, and they're going to be suffered, and we're going to be sorry then. You don't think that's what he's saying?
Okay, we go to another book presentation now, but just
Well, you
keep
better-
it short,
you better
please,
can buy
because
it all, yes.
if
But
people...
they're killing our culture and economy. That's what he's saying.
Well,
he's
okay,
not.
listen.
He's not killing me. No, he's saying Google is killing. No, that
Right,
no,
okay.
that kind
Okay.
of that kind of
You
use
make
of
your point.
internet.
I think that Andrew, and I'll say this in a friendly way, Andrew is inherently a snob. and I think that's his problem. Number two, you say that Google should pay you. I'm going to argue with that there's actually two creations of value online, right? The content, but also the audience for it. Google sends publishers 1 billion clicks a month. It's up to the publishers, as I said before, to find value in that. And if they don't, it's the publisher's fault.
Maybe you should meet afterwards and drink together, just have a
And
beer
finally,
together.
you are still trying to, with all respect, you're still trying to maintain a known business model, which is that you got circulation revenue from consumers.
Just say that somebody in this world
somebody.
is not asking a permission from me to
Oh,
reuse,
no, well,
to
yes, they are.
recycle
Oh, yes,
what
sir,
I
yes, they are.
produced.
It's very easy for you to turn on robots.txt and tell Google not to scrape you and not to send anyone to you.
No.
You can, wait. You can do that today. Very easy, simple, right? Rupert Murdoch did that at the Times of London because he is the big Google demonizer. You know what? He begged Google to come back. Belgian publishers begged him to come back because you need the links.
Why didn't Google
Number four.
refuse? Why did Google refuse to negotiate with the WAN on the site we
Because there's nothing to negotiate, because we have free use and fair comment. And if we make everyone charge for every word in this internet, it's not just publishers,
That's what
then
we-
we shut down
No.
free speech.
No. Okay, but what's your email address?
Jeff at BuzzMachine.
Okay. Okay.
Say back.
maybe
I love this. This is great.
Maybe you can Skype together and put it on YouTube afterwards.
We have a new show, and we'll sell sponsors, and we'll make business. I tell you, I'll make you famous. You'll make me
It's
famous.
a deal
We'll be
as long
rich.
you pay.
Are there any other questions? Yes,
more
please
over
stand up.
Hello, my name is Wim Vandenberg.
You are?
I do business, IT, and management. My question is, how do you think that Google Glass will affect news?
How do I think Google, pardon me?
How do you think that Google Glass will affect
Google
news?
Glass. Ah, yes. So Google Glass. I can't wait for my first trip to Germany wearing Google Glass. I'm going to buy a pair, it's, I guess, not a pair. It's whatever it is, right? I think it could affect journalism in many ways. Number one, we know that witnesses now share what they witness, and that's a huge source of original news that is valuable to us, right? New York example, sorry, I'm American, I always come up with American examples. The plane lands in the Hudson. The guy's there, he takes a picture. He wasn't being a journalist, but he was certainly helping us all. So one is, I think they're having more fun than we are.
That's the next. They are recording a children's program in
That's
the other
fine.
studio.
They're our future.
The
That's
next
great.
generation.
So one. Two, I think that It's a new way to deliver updates and news and relevance to people, right? Because it's going to be right here. Oh my God, Syria's blowing up, right? And I can say it to somebody if you care about that. And then 3 ways I can't even imagine. And that's why I think Google did a very clever marketing thing to get 8,000 people to buy the product. But they also were clever in getting 8,000 people to have to come up with an idea for how to use it. One of my students in my class, his mother died of Alzheimer's. And he lost her slowly to dementia, and she lost her days slowly. So he is looking at trying to use Google Glass as a way to help an Alzheimer's patient recover their day. That's another example.
You work in IT? Are you a nerd? Oh,
No, he has a tie on. Yeah,
he has a tie. Yes.
He's in management. He's in management of nerds. That's why he has the tie.
Okay. Yes, please. Tell me who you are, please.
Hi, my name is Michiel, and I'm a student of journalism from Zwolle. Talking about the future of journalism is talking about the future of democracy, of our society. One of our lecturers argues that journalists have to build bridges in order to create new communities to fight against the individualization that's happening in our society right now. And here you are saying, no, we should approach the people as individuals, which I understand from a business point of view, but what effects will that have on society in the end?
That's a magnificent question. That's really very smart. And by the way, when anyone says it's a great question,
you can applaud, yes.
They're buying time. Yeah, you can applaud him. Go ahead, applaud him. It's all right.
Stand up.
I think we'll find a balance. I think we go from mass, where we're all the same, we're a faceless mask, and we in America do believe perhaps too much in individualism, but we clearly, part of the value of sharing is that when we share, we join with other people. It is the act of sharing that connects us to other people and lets us find each other in new communities and act as communities. Now, those communities may be differently defined. They may not be towns or even nations. They may be communities of people with Alzheimer's or prostate cancer, as I had, or whatever. But in fact, I absolutely agree, and I was remiss in not saying that the real benefit of sharing in the end is not that we get to act as individuals in caves, because that's where all the privacy stuff goes, I think. The benefit of sharing is that we act as a community linked together in new ways. So, amen.
Be generous, amen. Okay, I've got time for 2 more questions. Yes, sir. Could you please stand up? Your name is?
Wim Danhoff, Chief Editor of Media Facts. It's a business-to-business brand. I have a question about Forbes Media, because you talked about entrepreneurial journalism. Do you consider that as one of the top examples in the world?
What do you think?
I think so, yes.
I think that they've done some very clever things. I'm a fan of blogs. Would you tell him that he ought to blog, by the way, while you're there?
Yeah.
I'll try to.
And so I think it's a good form. I find, and so what Forbes is doing, for those who don't know, is it's created a network of, I think, a few thousand bloggers. And so their staff and the bloggers become somewhat equal. Now, I'm going to surprise you on what I'm going to say right now. I actually find that causes an unevenness of quality and journalistic work that sometimes wastes my time, right? So I go to Forbes as a brand, and I expect to see more consistent reporting than just blather like I do, right? So that's the one thing that's interesting. But I think that they did open the world to a lot of voices, and I think they can always improve in quality. That's easy. Once you set up the structure, you can always make it better. I'm involved with Glam as a network of women's blogs, and they started off, they had some bad blogs, and they've always improved the quality. So you can choose that. That's number one. Number 2, the business model is very interesting, and some would say dangerous. But I would say innovative, because they pay these contributors based on the number of readers who come to them in a month. Now, you might say to me right there, oh, Jarvis, that's just unique users, that's just a mass number. That's bad, right? Right. What they do is they pay 20 times that amount if the reader comes back. So what they're saying is, if you delivered value to that reader and that reader comes directly to you, we're going to compensate you for that. Now, as I said before, any system can be gamed. So the natural response to that is to constantly write about Paris Hilton. And I should come up with a better example. A dumb celebrity, and so people will come back to you. But eventually those people will find that you are empty as air, and they will leave you, and you will not get them back. So the idea behind that system is that it starts to go to a new metric, to measure something new, a new definition of success that goes beyond this idea of page views and unique users and starts to get to engagement. That's the part that I think is very clever and very smart.
That an answer to your question?
Yes, well, it seems to be very successful financially. That's what publishers are looking for. So,
right, and so they have thousands. So Cairo will, I bet, next week have a few thousand bloggers, including you, and can monetize them in new ways, eh?
Last question. Who?
Back there.
Yes, back there. Could you please stand up and tell me who you are? You work for Dutch Radio, KRO Radio.
That's right.
Your name is Bart?
That's right too. I'm curious about...
It's a small country. You all know each other.
Exactly. We blog together.
and Twitter together. Curious about your opinion about Google killing RSS, which is a great journalistic tool. What does it say about Google?
They didn't quite kill RSS, they killed their RSS reader. Yes. But some might say that they've put a stake through the heart of RSS. RSS, as you know, as I agree, is a very important tool for openness, for being able to share. It's basically an API, a programming interface for content. And I support RSS, and I regret what Google did. Now, a couple things about this. One is that Google, in killing Reader, we don't really know the full reason why, but somebody smart has told me that part of the problem was that a few geeks used it, and it was being used less and less. Okay, even so, I would say to Google, no, you should still keep it going because of this reason. They also said that it was hard to maintain it in the technology of Google as a whole. It was becoming a drag into the development. Well, I would say to Google, fix that. And I've started using something else, and that's fine. But the real problem for Google here is I wrote a blog post the day after that announcement was made. And I was about to revel in La Vida Google. I have my Google phone. I have a Nexus 7 tablet, and I also lately have been using Chromebooks, including the Pixel. I have a lender from Google, and I've bought one. So I was going to extol how I'm now living in Google. What forced me into Google, what drew me into Google, I should say, was that I first and foremost use Gmail and Priority Inbox, which is great. I'm happy they read my email so I can get rid of the spam. I use Google Calendar, I use Google Maps, I use Google Reader, I used all these Google services, right? And I loved Apple, but my iPad and iPhone and Mac all gathered dust. So I'm living fully Google. The day that I write this is the day they kill Reader. And so I say it becomes a cautionary tale that we depend upon a company for something. That company can pull the rug out from under us. A company is like an animal. An animal must be an animal. You shouldn't make a gorilla a pet. Google is still a company. Siva Vaidyanathan, a friend of mine who is on the opposite side of me on Google Love at the University of Virginia, warns us that companies must be evil. I don't believe that. I don't think they must be evil. But companies must be companies. They must operate in their self-interest. And so part of the problem we have with not just Google and RSS is that they pulled out something that many of us used. They pulled out support for technology that matters. But I would be more scared of the fact that we do so much on Facebook and Twitter, which are indeed closed networks. And they can do something evil that just leave us without any support in those areas.
Do you get paid by Google?
Absolutely not. Google has, full disclosure here, is that Google has paid for my travel to events where I've spoken. And normally, except for here and there, I get paid to speak. But I do not get
But not by Google.
I do not take payment from Google.
Do you have stocks, Google?
I do have stock in Google. If you go to my blog and the About Me page, I reveal myself to a ridiculous extreme. All the stocks I own, where I am in religion, my prostate cancer, everything else. And I chose to buy Google stock so that I would kind of make myself look at it all the time from a business perspective.
Did you paint your home in the colors of Google?
My wife wouldn't let me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Jarvis. Thank you very much. Do you drink wine? Do you drink wine?
Yes, I do.
You have to drink it before getting on the plane because it's not allowed anymore.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, he will be here. He can he will sign your books if you have them, if you buy them. You get them for free if you become a member of KRO. It will only cost you €10 a year.
That's your business model.
Exactly. And I'll try to blog. Thank you very much.
What is it?